Hi everybody, and welcome back to Room 9, our region's largest classroom. My name is Miss St. Louis, and I'm a teacher at Rogers Elementary School in the Mehlville School District, and we are located in South St. Louis County. Today, I'm here to teach a reading lesson that's geared towards students who are in the 3rd grade, but all learners are more than welcome to join and explore with us. So, let's get started. Today, we're going to begin a warm-up by talking about figurative language. Now, figurative language is using words or phrases to mean something other than its literal meaning, right? So we're talking about how we can play with words to kind of change up meaning. Now, each day this week, we're going to talk about a different form of figurative language. Today, we're going to talk about similes, okay? Similes are a comparison of two things using the words like or as. So when we see a simile, we're always going to see those words like or as. An example is, the girls were like 2 peas in a pod. Now, this is where that other than their literal meaning comes into place. We're not saying that those 2 girls are actually peas in a pod, but we're saying, right, that they're as close as peas in a pod, right? They're super close together, they're best friends. So today, we're going to explore what's being compared to what in a couple other common similes that we might often see or hear. So here's our first one. George's eyes are as dark as the night sky. So what's being compared in this simile? Yeah, his eyes. And what are they being compared to? The night sky. So we know that the night sky is really, really dark. So we're saying that George has really dark eyes, right? They're as dark as the night sky. Very good. Let's try another one. The students ran down the hallway like a herd of elephants. What's being compared here? Yeah, so those students, right, and their running is being compared to a herd of elephants. Are they really a herd of elephants? No, but they probably sound like one when they're all running down the hallway, right, with that echo of their footsteps. You might have heard something like this in school too, if you heard some people running around. It sounds very loud, kind of like it might sound when there's a herd of elephants who are running by. Very good. Okay, here's another one. The tiger's roar was as loud as thunder. What's being compared here? Good. The roar of the tiger, right? To what? The thunder, right? And the noise that that creates. So we're comparing 2 different sounds, right? We know that the tiger's roar probably isn't as loud as thunder because thunder can be heard for miles sometimes. We really can't hear a tiger's roar that loud, but we're comparing that noise to show just how loud that tiger's roar was. It wasn't just kind of loud, it was really, really loud, right? So we're showing some of that exaggeration in that sentence. Very good. Here's another one. This one's a good one. I messed up. I'm so sorry. Their fur was as white as snow. Yeah, so the fur is being compared to the color of the snow, right? That color white. We know that when we wake up and on a snow day and we look outside and there's that fresh coat of snow, it's super white because we haven't stepped on it, there's no mud in it, it's a very white snow. So we're comparing that to the color of an animal's fur, right? It's just so white, it's nice and crisp and perfect. Very good. All right, here's another one. Okay, the animals scattered like ants. What's being compared here? Good, the animals Good, to the ants, right? So have you ever been around ants outside and maybe you accidentally almost stepped in an anthill, right? And the ants scatter everywhere. They run super, super fast, right? So we're comparing that speed and that kind of frantic energy to what was happening with these animals, right? They scattered like ants, right? They moved away really fast. They ran away. So, pretty cool. Today, these were only a few similes that I showed you. But similes we see a lot. Now this week we're going to be exploring poetry. And we see figurative language being used a lot in poetry. So as we read through some of the different poems this week, you might begin to see some of this figurative language being used, okay? So the reason that poets use figurative language is to kind of help with exaggeration a little bit. When we read a poem versus when we read a story or a narrative, right? Reading a story, things are pretty literal in their meaning. But when it comes to poetry, we have a little bit more freedom to maybe make some exaggerated choices and play with our words a little bit. So that's why we see a lot of figurative language, because authors are starting to play with their words and they want to get a little fancy and a little bit more free, because we have a little bit more freedom when we write poetry. So as we go through our poems this week, I challenge you to kind of see if you can find some similes or the other forms of figurative language that we're going to talk about this week. So, you ready to jump into the poems? Let's go. So this week, in all of our poetry mini lessons, we're going to be talking about different sound devices that are used in different forms of poetry. So each day this week, we're going to focus on a different sound device. The first sound device that we're going to focus on is rhyming, okay? So rhyming is words that have the same ending sound. And oftentimes in poetry, we'll see rhyming words at the ends of lines. So we might see that the end of every line has a rhyming word, or every other end of a line is a rhyming word. So there are different patterns we see. And we often characterize those patterns we see through letters. So you might call something an AA, BB pattern, an AB pattern, an ABC pattern. So there's different patterns we have. And so those A lines would rhyme, the B lines would rhyme, and the C lines would rhyme. And the rhyming word would be the last word in that line. So for example, okay, for rhyming words, we know that bear and hair rhyme because that ending sound is the same. We have that air sound, bear, hair. Then if we look at this little part of a poem, we have Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. So we have that bear, hair, right? It's the end of that line. So here we have an AA, okay? So today, as we read and explore some different poems, we're going to look to see what kinds of rhyming patterns we see in those poems and how they use those different patterns in their poetry, okay? So sound devices, right, help to create and enhance that rhythm. So we're looking for rhythm as we say those poems. So having that rhyming in there is going to help create that illusion of rhythm. So let's read our first poem. This book is called Rapping About Bodies of Water. So here's our first one. Water bodies at coasts. Oceans touch land at many coasts. Coasts are the edges of land. Coasts can be covered in rocks or stones, or have beaches of fine, soft sand. This group of coastline pictures explores the bodies of waters and ocean shores. So we're starting to see some of those rhyming words, right? So we have land and sand, explores and shores. So there's some rhyming words that are starting to give us the illusion of that rhythm, right? We're starting to hear a rhythm as we read our book. Let's find another one that we can read. How about this one? All about rivers flowing. Rivers flow from high ground to low. They carry fresh water as they go. The source of a river is where it begins. The mouth of a river is where it ends. Rivers meander in curves and bends. They rush through rapids, crash over rocks, drop in waterfalls, and make no stops. Until they have reached a lake or a sea, can you find this river's mouth for me? So we're seeing a different bit of a pattern here, right? Low and go, we have rhyme. Then we have a line that does not have any rhyming words. And then we have a rhyme and a rhyme, okay? And then we have lines that don't rhyme. So we have a don't rhyme, and then these two opposites rhyme. So we're getting some different patterns here to get some different rhymings. So using different patterns creates different rhythms as you read. Let's try another. This book has lots of poems in it, so I've marked some of my favorites. Dive in. So this book at the seafloor, all these poems are going to be about odd ocean creatures. So get ready to learn some new cool facts as we read some awesome poems. Let's visit a habit shallow and deep, and boiling hot, where acids seep, and frigid and pressured and mountainy steep. Come explore the sea. Examine odd critters enormous and tiny, sunlit reef toasty and Arctic ice briny, jellyish, delicate, and venomy spiny. They all live in the sea. There are hunters and foragers, hiders and peekers, continuous feeders and one meal a weekers. There are swarmers, attackers, and sneakers. They all thrive in the sea. They drift in the currents, they're darting, they're bolting, they're eelish, concealish, electric, and jolting. They're brightly hued, luminous, sightly, revolting. Come see them in the sea. The ocean is planet Earth's main attraction, yet humans have fathomed the tiniest fraction. Now we go deeper into the action. Dive in and see the sea. So in this poem, right, we're starting to see that our stanzas, they all are made up of rhyming words, except for that very last line, okay? I don't know if you can see this. Let me get a little closer. The very last line is actually in italics, right? Giving it a little bit of emphasis, okay? So the rest of them have that rhythm, and then the line that does not rhyme with the others makes it stand out a little more because it is out of that rhythm, right? It's different. That was our dive in poem. Let's try another one. This one's called Walk Like a Nut. Okay, let's see if we can listen for maybe some of that rhythm that's popping up. What kind of pattern are we seeing in our rhyming words here? This octopus walked backwards on two arms and wraps the other six around its top. It ambles free of predatory harms, and thus avoids becoming shark-chewed slop. It winds six tentacles around its top, pretending to be flotsam sharks ignore, and treads away from trouble flippy flop, instead of being chomped to guts and gore. A coconut that strolls across the ocean floor. Now, I'm going to read to you this little fact. This is not part of the poem, but it gives us a little fact about what we were reading about. The coconut octopus wraps six of its arms around its head and walks backwards on the other two arms. This movement makes the octopus look like a coconut drifting across the shallow seafloor near Indonesia. Predators hunting for an 8-tentacled snack pass on by. So that's a cool way that this octopus has to kind of protect itself from predators, right? It's not camouflaging into the sea bottom, but it is allowing itself to kind of change the way it looks so that predators don't want to eat it because they think, right, that it's not an octopus, it's just a coconut. They don't want that coconut, they want an octopus. Pretty cool feature for that octopus. So if we look back at our poem, we started to see some patterns arise with our rhyming words, right? We have an A-B pattern in each stanza. So we have arms, top, harms, slop, right? So arms and harms rhyme, top and slop rhyme. And then it keeps going. And now We have an A, C, A, C. And the reason I'm saying that we have an A pattern again, because now, we have a BC, BC pattern. Because my B up here has top and slop, and that sound continues as we go along. Now we have top and flap. So we're keeping one of those rhyming words, and now we're just adding in a new set as part of our stanza. And the reason that we're keeping some of those same rhyming words is to help keep some of the same rhythm, but we're changing it up just a little, right? We're changing up one of the beats. So the entire rhythm is not changing, it's just every other beat is changing, which changes it up just a little, but gives us also a little air of familiarity because we've already heard that B sound before, right? So we have, down here we have top, ignore, flop, and gore. Very cool how they practice, how an author practices using different rhyming patterns to kind of give these different rhythms, right? You have to really think hard when you're writing poetry about what kind of rhythm do you want for your reader as they're reading? What kind of feeling do you want to emphasize through your words? All right, let's try this one. Fish food. We don't know why the convict fish lives so completely hermitish. Skulls hiding, never swims about, but eats its young, then spits them out. The little fry in their cave beds, on mucus strings hung by their heads, sleep right above the grown-up snout, then eats its young, then spits them out. By day the blades blast from their lair, a swarming, stripping, feeding tear. They leave the parent home to pout, then eats its young and spits them out. My Post-its in the way. When day is done, those fry return. So weird how some kids just won't learn. Since little convicts belly stout, get eaten young, then spitting out. What food can parent convicts prize when lurking home like ghoulish spies? Meals babies eat and then respout. Why? Eat your young, then spit them out. What pattern did you notice? What sort of rhyming pattern are you hearing that helps with the rhythm in this one? Did you hear some rhyming words? Yeah, what were some of those sounds that you heard that were rhyming words? What were some of those ending sounds? Yeah, eyes, right? We had spies and prize. Yeah, we had an ed sound, right? Bed, head. There was the air sound, lair and tear. Anything else that really stood out to you? Yeah, that out sound, right? We had a lot of words that rhymed with out in this one. We had about and out, snout and out, pout and out, stout and out, respout and out. We had a lot of words that went with that. So did we start to see a pattern that emerged here? Yeah, we had that out sound happen every 2 sets of lines, right? So in each of my stanzas, right, stanza is kind of like a paragraph. We think about when we're doing our writing, we have paragraphs. In poetry, we have stanzas. So we have these stanzas, and they're made up of 4 lines. The last 2 lines have that out rhyming sound at the end, okay? About, out, snout, out, pout, out. The first 2 lines, they both rhyme, but they're not always the same. Right here we have fish and hermitish, beds and heads, lair and tear. So those 2 lines rhyme, but they don't rhyme with the words in the other stanzas, okay? Whereas the last 2 words, they rhyme with the other words in the stanzas. Now, why do you think that that might be? Yeah, the last line of each stanza was the same, right? But eats its young, then spits them out. Then eats its young, then spits them out. That eats its young, then spits them out. Get eaten young, then spitting out. So they're repeating the same sets of words. There's a little bit of a difference in there, right? They change it up a little, but it all ends the same, right? Spitting out, spits them out. So that last line is the same, right? It's getting repeated, repetition, which is another sound device that we're going to be talking about this week. So because the author of this poem wanted to keep that last line the same, and they wanted to follow this pattern, we hear a lot of that out sound in this poem, which creates kind of that rhythm we hear of that continuous sound. Pretty cool, huh? Oh, I can read you the fact too. Let's learn about that convict fish. The convict fish burrows in the coral reefs and rocky bottoms of the warm southern Pacific Ocean. Adult convict fish stay hidden in their burrows day and night. Young fish, also called fry, swarm far from their cave each morning in search of food. They find their way back to their caves every evening, quite a feat. Once the fry return, the parent fish has been seen taking bunches of them into its mouth, then spitting them out again, alive. The young convict fish attaches themselves to the ceiling of their burrow by mucus threads for the rest of the night. If parent convict fish never leave their burrows, then what do they eat? Scientists have not yet solved this mystery. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think they eat if they never leave? It's a tough question. Yeah. So why do you think the author chose to make the last line all having to do with spit them out? Yeah, because it's kind of a strange fact, right? It's kind of this surprising fact that these convict fish do, right? They eat their young and then they spit them out. It's not something we see from a lot of creatures, so they really wanted to emphasize this fact, which is pretty cool for a poem because not only is it fun to read, but it's also an educational piece, right? It's teaching us something new about a fish. Very cool. Let's try another one. This poem is called Hidden in Plain Sight. Isn't the sea spider strange? It's mostly all legs and a snout. And despite its world ocean-wide range, have you ever seen one about? It's mostly all legs and a snout, with a body that's twiggy stick slim. Have you ever seen one tiptoeing or having a swim? With a body that's twiggy stick slim, there's no room for guts or for eggs. Tiptoeing or having a swim, it sports guts and eggs in its legs. There's no room for guts or for eggs, but the snout plenty long and quite fierce. It sports guts and eggs in its legs, while it prowls for soft sponges to pierce. The sea spider's snout is quite fierce, teeth hidden inside a long straw. It prowls for soft sponges to pierce, then slurps sponge goo up in its craw. Teeth hidden inside a long straw, all across its world ocean-wide range. It slurps sponge goo up in its craw. Now, isn't the sea spider strange? Wow. Did you hear the rhythm that was created in this poem through those rhyming words? This one was pretty interesting, don't you think? Yeah. So in this poem, in each stanza, we followed that A-B pattern, right? Every other line rhymed. So we have, let's look at this first one. Isn't the sea spider strange? It's mostly all legs and a snout. And despite its worldwide ocean range, have you ever seen one about? So we go from strange to range, from snout to about. But then, right, if we look at the next stanza, it's mostly all legs and a snout. That first ending of that line in the next stanza rhymes with the last line in the stanza before it. So now we see our ending words are snout, slim, about, and swim. So the last line of the second stanza ends in swim, and if we look at the next set, we end in slim. So we're starting to see that there's this pattern that's emerging, right? We're taking that second set of rhyming words and starting with that sound in the next stanza, which is keeping that rhythm flowing, right? Keeping that air and that sound alive, which is a really cool technique that this author used to show those rhyming words. Let's read the fact. Sea spiders are not true spiders, but spider cousins who live on the seabed from shoreline to the deep sea floor. They have narrow bodies with little space for internal body organs. Their 4 to 6 pairs of legs house digestive organs and eggs. Sea spiders pierce anemones, sponges, corals, and other bottom dwellers with the ends of their long snout-like proboscis. They use the proboscis to suck up the soft inside parts of their prey. Pretty interesting about that sea spider. I didn't know any of those facts, did you? All right, so today we talked about one of our sound devices that are used in poetry. And today we talked about rhyming. And those are words that have the same ending sound. And so we saw how different rhyming patterns at the ends of lines and in stanzas can create that rhythm in our poems. And there are many different patterns that authors use to create different sets of rhythm, which is really cool because it makes each and every single poem unique and different. So I hope that you enjoyed reading this with us today. I'm so excited that you joined us, and I hope that you join us back tomorrow as we learn about a new sound device in poetry. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us here at Room 9, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.